Welcome back to Elevation Perspective. My name is Mark, joined today by Frank Tropiano and Anthony the Heel Romano. Today we are talking about wrestling, more specifically the WWE. We had a pay-per-view, a premium live event, if you will, in Saudi Arabia, Crown Jewel. It just passed over the weekend. Frank and I received a text at the end of that show, pretty much saying I didn't like any of that, from Anthony. Now, Anthony, I'll give you the stage right away. Do you care to elaborate?
Listen, I don't want to be too harsh. Where the actual match is fine, sure. I think we could all probably admit that. I felt like that event was a rare miss in this Triple H era, in that it felt like most of it was intended solely for the audience that was in the building that night in Saudi Arabia. You had the two Crown Jewel championship matches, these big belts. I don't need to know how many carats are in the belts that are never leaving Saudi Arabia. They don't even get to carry these belts around with them anywhere. All they get to leave with was like a Super Bowl ring. And that was what we were sold on, these two big champion versus champion matches, which were fine. They were both fine matches. They both went pretty much how we would have expected them to go. Some interference, especially in the women's match. Obviously, Cody Rhodes, Liv Morgan, your Crown Jewel champions. Everyone goes home happy. It was fine. I didn't feel as if, and even the big Bloodline match to start the show, I thought fell a little flat compared to what it maybe could have been. Overall, I don't think it really did anything for me to move forward any of these storylines. In fact, some of them were just storylines that were created simply for this PLE. I think that's probably why I felt the way I did.
I think you said it best when you were texting us back and forth. You said the end of that Bloodline match was messy. And I think that's the proper way to put it, where it was like, what are they going for? What are they going for? What are they going for? And then they did get there at the end. Like, I want to give them credit. Like, they did wrap it up nicely, and then Raw the next night cleared things up even further. But I think that set the tone for the entire night, and I think you hit that on the head. Like, it was a little sloppy. It was a little messy. It was still good, and we obviously care about that storyline probably more than any other that was happening that night. So it was still like probably one of the better things on the card, but it did feel a little messy.
Did you guys feel at all that, we'll have to talk about the Bloodline in great detail throughout this show because it is the most important storyline throughout the industry, but did you feel at all they kind of, an underwhelming moment there with Sami Zayn where they maybe dropped the ball on his, I know it's not like his actual like rejoining with the group, but I just felt like such a chump there, accidentally kicking Roman in the face, and I know why they did it, but how did you guys actually feel like they portrayed or came across with Sami there?
You had to find a way to get him back into this world. He just had this whole thing with Gunther where he's fighting for the world championship. It was fine. Obviously this is going to now lead to tension amongst the Bloodline, the original Bloodline members, and I guess there'll be a confrontation with Roman on SmackDown this coming week. I don't have a huge problem with it. Yeah, I guess it kind of did make him look kind of stupid, but you had to find a way to get him back in this world. I guess this does accomplish that.
I do like the idea that they're kind of spewing where it's like, well, we can't just have them come back and all be friends and all be great. Like, I feel like that's like respecting the audiences. Like, yeah, I get it. You have to suspend disbelief, but like, if they were all just like back, like buddy, it was fine. The Usos being the easiest of those relationships to mold made sense. They're twin brothers. Like, and now every relationship that is falling into place is becoming slightly more harder. Sammy's not actually family, even though Jay says he is family, right? And so I appreciate that it's now going to be more difficult to merge Roman and Sammy than it was to merge Roman and Jay. And then obviously, like I said, the Usos being the easiest one, So I think that is the one aspect about it that I do appreciate. But yeah, I don't know if Sammy looked like a chump. He's the one who kicked Roman, so I think that if it was the other way around and they all left him in the middle of the ring after like coming up with the save, that would have been the worst thing like they could have done.
Fair enough. And we're not going to go over all the results here. I think it was a pretty underwhelming show, like Romano, like Anthony did talk about there. I saw a funny tweet saying Triple H cannot wait until this 10-year deal with Saudi Arabia is up that Vince originally signed. He's kind of just going through the motions a little bit, it feels like. But with that being said, it was still a solid wrestling show. Was there ever a more situation where someone needed a win more than Bronson Reed needed a win here when they had him go over Seth Rollins? It just makes you wonder, and I love Seth Rollins. I think we all love Seth Rollins, a guy who can just take loss after loss and it does not matter. How do you give Bronson Reed that loss?
I personally don't understand it. They've spent now multiple months building up big Bronson Reed, and I've loved what they've done. I think it's actually turned him from someone who you didn't give a crap about to a relevant member of the roster week in, week out, destroying people. The Braun Strowman stuff was great. Obviously, the continuity with Seth while he was out and now coming back to face each other. I don't get why Seth won that match, and I know that they now have come back, to do stuff with each other this past Monday night with Bronson Reed getting involved in that fatal 4-way number one contenders match, but it felt like, why give him a loss? Seth already cost him that last monster standing match on Raw against Braun Strowman.
Which that was fine because he was super protected. Seth ran in there, he curb stomped him onto the steps. He was fine. That was fine. He could take that loss. But how do you give him a clean, straight up loss here, Frank?
I mean, okay, so I think back to now who's in charge of pulling these strings. In the Vince era, I would have been very, very concerned about Bronson Reed moving forward. I think I'm a lot less concerned about Triple H. I will not argue with you guys, though. I do believe that he probably should have just went over there. What's the point of all this? He did come back strong Monday night. I think that's the important thing out of all of this. I think back to Braun Breaker and how he lost to Sammy the first time, and it was like, why didn't he just beat Sammy? Sammy's not one of those guys that ever needs to win. The crowd's always behind him. Similar to Seth Rollins in a way. Seth is like a little bit more of a serious, more protected character, but Sammy's always going to be over. Like, everyone loves him, right? So it's similar. And I think about that, and I think about what they did there with Braun Breaker, and I'm like, okay, well, Bronson Reed still has a path here, the dominant force they want him to be. And also, big guys are really hard to book. I think we've seen it over and over and over again, how hard it is to book big guys. I mean, and I'm not talking about guys like Omos, where it's like it struggled to land, like there was never,
But Frank, my question with Bronson Reed is, where is the ceiling? Is this leading to him becoming a world championship contender, or like where are we eventually going with this?
And I was thinking the same thing when Frank brought up Braun Breaker. We look at Braun Breaker as a future multi-time world champion. So right now it matters how he's portrayed, but it doesn't really matter in the long run. Bronson Reed here, big Bronson Reed, excuse me, he's in a position where they really have to be careful with him. If he starts taking losses and he's going to lose the crowd, it's a slippy slope.
I think that's fair, and I think that brings us to a bigger question of, it's very crowded at the top of WWE right now, and I think that's why we're all enjoying it, because there are so many guys that can win, like, not titles, like world titles. They could be the face of either brand. And listen, I don't think one loss kills him by any means, as long as they keep having him destroy people and stuff like that. But you're right. He does have to win eventually. A win over Seth Rollins would have been really nice, really big. Let's wait and see. I'm not going to put I'm not going to say his career is over. I'm not going to say he can't ever be world champion, especially seeing some of the people that Hunter has been able to elevate past, what they were originally doing under Vince,
They've earned the right to
right, exactly. Yeah.
I guess I'll just end this Bronson Reed discussion with a hypothetical. Do either of you believe he will hold a world title in his career? I do not.
No, I do not.
I think so. I think he can, for sure. Like, I think, I don't know, like, I'm pretty 50-50 on it. But yeah, I want to say that he definitely has the ability. Like, I'm not going to count him out just because of one loss here.
All right, fair enough. Moving on here, we had this big-time multi-women tag team match where Bianca and Jade did retain. Why are Bianca and Jade still the tag team champions is my question here. And I'm starting to think this through. At some point, I'm assuming it's going to be Jade that turns on Bianca. Is this like a WrestleMania one-on-one match? Are we going to be waiting like that long for this eventual payoff? Like, how do we feel about this tag team? Is it going to end soon? Do we want it to end soon? How are we feeling?
There's no reason to rush this. Look, they can let it play out. They're still the tag team title holders. I think the perfect place that this ends is the Royal Rumble, right? Where it starts technically, right? Where the feud between the two of them starts, right? Have one of them eliminate the other. And by the way, if you really want to send people for a loop, make Bianca turn on Jade, not the other way around. I don't know if Jade could be the sympathetic babyface, but boy, would I be surprised, right? Because we're all sitting here waiting for Jade to do it. Maybe have Bianca do it.
First of all, They need to get rid of this fatal four-way tag team format where you have 4 different teams with one person in the ring. Only 2 people in the ring, and 2 teams are just totally out of the match at one time.
Yep.
When would you ever be tagging in? Don't even get me started. It's a terrible format. It makes no sense. They need to get rid of it. Just make it 4 people in the ring at the same time. Anyway, back to this point. Obviously, they're already teasing tension between the 2. We saw on Monday night. They had the Battle Royal for the number 1 contenders match. They were in the ring. It looked like we were about to get something, and then the other 2 kind of broke it up. But clearly, they're already sowing the seeds for them to butt heads. Your question mark: will it wait all the way until WrestleMania? I mean, probably. And that makes the most sense. I don't see them wasting a match like that for the first time outside of WrestleMania. That's a huge draw in the women's division. I guess it probably wouldn't involve the world titles unless one of them were to win that. I mean, maybe they could break up. Maybe Bianca gets the belt back or something like that. I don't know. I mean, you have to imagine Tiffany's going to be the next champ on SmackDown. So.
And I'm not sure that would need a world title, that one-on-one match. I don't think that's fine without the title.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't.
Like you said, it's a major draw. It's a major draw. So you're right. Yeah, I don't think they need that at all.
We also don't currently have a women's War Games match, correct?
That's a good point.
And so them now feuding with Liv and Raquel, I don't know. I don't know where that goes. I don't know who teams up with who, but...
Yeah, no, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Of course, War Games is probably 3 weeks away at this point. We do have a brand new number 1 contender just based off what you said with Liv. Io Sky won the big Battle Royal on Raw. So maybe, is that a Survivor Series match?
They could just do that match next week or in 2 weeks on Raw. I mean,
that could be a Raw match. Are the girls definitely getting a War Games match? Is that confirmed, or we're just assuming?
I mean, they've had one every single year, right?
The one last year was great with Damage Control against... Bailey kept taking all the bullets, and Io jumped off the
That was a great story.
The All-Star team. Who was in that match against them?
All right, we did pull up who was on that superstar team. It was Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi Blackheart, and Becky Lynch. So yeah, quite the star-studded War Games match last year.
It's crazy how different the roster is right now. Everyone except for Bianca is not currently active, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure where Shotzi is these days, but
she's like tore her ACL. She's out for a while. I mean, I guess by now it's probably maybe getting close to getting back, but yeah, I think she had a pretty bad injury.
I love Charlotte's schedule in my own work. 3 months on, 12 months off. No, I mean obviously Charlotte's had some unfortunate, run-ins with injury. Her being healthy for a really long extended period of time. Just to remind everyone how great she is would be awesome. So I hope to see her back, just kind of piggyback off of that. But hopefully she gets back soon. Who knows what's going to happen with Becky? She's not currently signed to a contract, so.
So yeah, just based on the landscape of the current WWE Women's Division, you got to imagine Liv and Io would be inside of that War Games match instead of having a one-on-one match. Because how else are we going to fill out this match in a compelling way that makes sense?
The thing is, I don't know who you necessarily lump into those teams. Listen, maybe they're not going in that direction, but I'm just trying to think of...
You could do like a Piper Niven and Chelsea Green as 2 of the 4, but at that point, it's like it's supposed to be like a really serious like blood feud match. Like we're just going to throw women together. It doesn't really make sense either.
And Bianca and Jade are not really friends with any other teams, are they?
I guess you could put like Naomi and another face on their side.
That's what I was actually thinking. This would be cool. I don't know how we would ever get there. My thought is Nia, Tiffany, Liv, and Raquel versus Jade, Bianca, Bailey, and Naomi.
If they didn't just feud, then that makes a lot of sense.
Listen, we've seen Stranger Things. They can all of a sudden be like they can make it work. I don't know how.
They also could. Let's say Io loses, they could just put Io and Kairi Sane in there. Something like that.
Moving on here, we have another number 1 contender. The heel is really happy about this. Frank and I are questioning why this is a thing. So we had the Fatal 4-Way match. It was Dominic Mysterio, it was Sheamus, it was Seth Rollins, and it was Damien Priest. The winner takes on Gunther for the title, and they gave the win to Damien Priest. Why are we doing this again is my initial question. I just felt like this was such a layup for Dominic Mysterio to win this match with, of course, in mind, the winner of this match is not beating Gunther. Gunther is going to have this belt for a very long time. We know that going in. So what is the point of running it back with Damien Priest when you know what the match is going to be? It's going to be a fun match, but at the end of the day, why are we doing this? Where Dominic Mysterio is going to lose, just like Priest is going to lose, but it'll be very interesting and fun and different.
Let me ask you something. Obviously, you think Dominic Mysterio has a higher ceiling in the WWE than Damien Priest. Is that correct?
No question, yes.
Okay.
I'm not even sure that that's true, but I do think that Dom has a lot of momentum right now, and they could have played off of that. You know what I mean? Into this match. And it would have been a David versus Goliath, but you would be rooting for Goliath. It would have been a great. It would have been a great thing that they could have done. That was my problem. But go ahead. I don't want.
Well, okay. They played into this the week before with Dominic going in begging for a match. Adam Pearce basically saying you did nothing to earn a title opportunity. You got to win the match next week. He said you'll be facing a former number one or former world heavyweight champion or whatever. Then this match came about. Whatever. Dominic will get his chances. I don't necessarily know if this is the time to thrust him into a spot where he clearly has no chance, where he really hasn't won any match of significance. He doesn't have a belt.
He beat Damien Priest last week, did he not?
Sure, but it's a singles match on Raw. I mean, he earned his right to be in the number one contenders match and got some help doing it in his classic heel way. I know you want to say there's no more rematch clause, but technically, there was never a rematch between Damien Priest and Gunther. And they had a really good match. What was that King of the Ring or SummerSlam, right? When he won the
SummerSlam, yeah.
It was a great match. It was arguably the best match on the card.
Do you think this does anything, though? Do you think this elevates Priest in any way? Do you think it puts him more over as a baby? Because that was my only thing where I was like...
Do you think the match is going to end clean?
Are we done with Judgment Day and Priest?
I guess my question is this leading us towards anything new and different with Damien?
It would be Finn Balor again if it's not clean.
There could be something up their sleeve to give Damien a new sort of ramp into something different. What that is, I have no idea, but I do think they want him to be a big part of the storylines that they're showcasing week in and week out. I agree. We can't keep going back to the Judgment Day. I'm in full agreement. I don't want to see him against Finn and all these. It doesn't need to happen.
This was a decision where it didn't really matter who they chose, right? Because like you said, Sheamus, nobody gets hurt from a loss to Gunther. None of those four men get hurt from a loss to Gunther. I thought Dom had the most momentum. It could have been a really fun match. I don't think I have a problem with Priest. If you would have asked me who I thought was going to win that match, I would have told you Dom first and Priest second. Truthfully, I didn't think Sheamus had a chance. I feel like Seth had the worst chance out of all three of them, ironically enough. I would just like to see them, like the heel said, do something with Priest now, right? You've invested so much in him. Let's do something with him. And it also gives us a chance for Priest to prove that he can have a meaningful feud that isn't Judgment Day related and isn't belt related too. I mean, obviously not this one. This one is directly for the belt, right? But can he do stuff outside of the championship, picture and outside of the stable he was with for 2 years?
That's all fair, and I do hope that you're right, heel, in the sense that they have something planned here that's not the Judgment Day for Damien. If he can start a new feud, a new situation, maybe I'll be more interested in him. Because right now, like I said, I don't care for what he does because it seems like it's the same thing over and over again. We're moving on now. We're going to wrap up this conversation with the Wyatt Six. So they kidnapped The Miz. They're doing these interesting videos of him tied up somewhere in a boiler room, and Uncle Howdy's talking in his ear. It's something. It's interesting. How do we feel about the current situation with the Wyatt Six? It's been a decent amount of time now since they debuted. How do we feel in general?
I need to just say something here. They are not faces. They're not they're trying to make us believe that these baby faces. They're kidnapping people. They attacked the entire, their debut. They attacked everyone on the set. It's not a baby face thing to do. It's so strange why we can't just make them heels. They'd be wonderful heels. They'd be so good at creating that reaction. And The Miz deserves it. Is that what we're saying? He deserves to be kidnapped and duct tied. No, I mean, when the babyface gets his comeuppance by hitting him with the finisher and taking his belt, that's one thing. When the babyface kidnaps him and throws him in the Wyatt compound, that's not a babyface thing to do. This kills me. Again, suspense of disbelief. this is the opposite of that, where I'm like, I don't understand this. Like, just make them heels. And people will cheer for them anyway. People used to cheer for Bray anyway, right? And that's what this whole thing is. But Bray was never a face. Bray had like this eerie tone. He was a heel. He was a bad guy, and people liked that about him. But he was still booked the right way.
No, I don't want to interrupt, but I just think you're thinking of it the wrong way. I don't think they're heels or baby faces necessarily. And you kind of hit on it when you said
they're getting cheered though.
But they would get cheered regardless. They could kill. I mean, we literally saw them murder people in their debut. Like, they could do whatever they wanted to anybody, and they would still get cheered. It's still new enough. Obviously, their connection to Bray is big and important with the fan base. I mean, people love Bray Wyatt. This is basically just a living tribute to his persona, his character. They're not going to get booed for quite some time, I would think. And it's like, you have to kind of look at it, I feel like, in the lens of like, they're not bad, they're not good. They're the Wyatts, and they are, whatever their motives are. I mean, it's always going to be murky. We're never really going to know what the heck they're talking about. We have no clue really still why they're going after the Miz. But the clip they played on Raw this past week was creepy. I mean, when I don't know which one of them came up behind him and, it looked like he was going to choke him out at the end of the clip. Like,
I think we're supposed to believe they're going after the Miz because of the way he treated R-Truth. I think they're kind of trying to like right wrongs, which is like a face mentality, but they're kidnapping people and they're murdering people.
So they're like vigilantes who are out for justice.
Anti-hero vigilante, yes.
Yeah. The thing that I like that they're doing really, really well here was playing the Bo Dallas stuff as the B-team member, where Miz was talking about taking them to the top and everything.
Yeah.
That was excellent. That was really well done. Like, you've established your motive for wanting to kidnap him, at least. You know what I mean? Like you said, like, they have the R-Truth thing. It's like, you've never been a good person. You've always turned on your partners and stuff like that. I think that the motive is there. I understand what they're doing in terms of that, and that video was great. Can Bo Dallas go? 2024 Bo Dallas. Because I know he got shining reviews in NXT, right? That people loved him in NXT, but that was 10 years ago.
It remains to be seen, and it also makes you think, what is the eventual plan here? What is the ceiling for Uncle Howdy, for Bo Dallas, for this group in its entirety? Because I don't think they should be anywhere near a world championship. I don't foresee that for a very long time. I think they probably learned their lesson from the whole Fiend situation when they put the title on him. But do you guys see like a world title in the future? Like, where does this go?
It remains to be seen where this eventually goes. I'm sure it'll be like a 6-man tag or whatever the case is. Some Extreme Rules, Hell in a Cell, who knows? But will Bo Dallas be a world champion? Uncle Howdy? I don't know. I really don't know.
I do feel better about him than Bronson Reed, for what it's worth.
See, I was going to say the opposite. I feel better about Bronson Reed than Cross. I was going to say that.
Than Bo or Cross?
I'm sorry. Than Uncle Howdy, than Bo.
I think I agree. I think Bronson Reed right now probably has the better chance. I don't know. The thing is, the line is so long right now, and this is a larger conversation that we don't really need to get into.
And the two champions don't lose.
The line is so long for two belts that are not losing at least until probably Royal Rumble WrestleMania season. So it's just hard to picture any of these guys who have you would think, so far to go to become the world champion, and especially with Raw going to Netflix, is that belt going to be the more important belt? I have no idea what's going to happen with all of that, but to think that Bronson Reed's going to be one of your two faces, or even Uncle Howdy, it's hard to picture right now.
Right now, that is hard to believe. Boys, this has been a great conversation. We're going to come back next week. We'll talk about the road to Survivor Series War Games. Hopefully some more clarity by then. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.